Due to the nature of this episode, we'll be discussing topics that include grief and loss, death, suicide, pregnancy, and childbirth. Listener discretion is advised. Please consider this when deciding how and when you'll listen to this episode. With that being said, let's jump into our exciting episode.
Hello, and welcome to The Third Act, an educational podcast for entertaining audiences like you.
Theater for the middle class.
I'm your husband host, Jared.
And I'm your wife host, Gracious.
We're glad you're here.
Hey.
Hey.
How are
Hey,
you?
dude.
Hey, dude. Welcome back to part 2 of Our Town.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
How are you feeling on a scale of melting to sparkling?
I love that I said, thanks for having me here, as if I'm not in the front room of my own home. Like, where else would I be?
I really invited you here.
Where else would I be on a Wednesday evening? I am feeling, am I allowed to say wrapped? I'm feeling wrapped like a burrito.
Oh.
I'm just wrapped in a soft, warm tortilla. And you might be wondering, Jared, are you snuggled with something? No, actually, it's freaking cold out today.
It is.
But I am in my warm, comfy house. I'm in my warm, comfy recording clothes. I had a scrumdiddlyumptious meal provided by my one and only, and I am very loved by many people, not just you, but by many individuals who have reached out and made me feel very loved and appreciated. So I feel wrapped like I'm in a warm tortilla.
That's nice.
Yeah. On a scale of melting to sparkling, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling holy because I just found this massive hole in my sock. Look at that.
That is a massive hole.
It's a
You should
massive
talk to
hole.
someone who knows how to crochet and sew and get that fixed.
You don't know how to crochet.
I literally do.
No.
I do. I'm a Renaissance man.
You liar.
You know this about me.
You know how to sew. I've never seen you crochet.
You've literally
I
been the
taught you how to
recipient
crochet.
of one of my cozies.
What?
Don't even with me, dude.
Don't
I will
even.
I will crochet you out of this house.
I'll bench you.
We'll bench you. What's that from?
It's from Kid History, I think.
Oh. I will bench
I
you.
will slap you in the face, Sean.
I will beat you off right here, right now. No one's beaching off anyone.
Any.
Oh my gosh. I was going to ask.
Yes.
Dude, you have a performance coming up
Oh my gosh, I totally
Like-
do.
Tuesday of next
Gosh,
week.
I totally do.
How are you feeling? What are you up to?
I'm feeling so nervy.
Why?
I
Get
don't-
into the weeds,
I don't
man.
know.
Get down and dirty. Why? Why are you so
Right.
nervy?
I don't know, man, because I don't know.
While you consider your own
Oh,
thoughts and
really?
feelings,
Because I
Gracious
don't-
is doing a cabaret up in New York. Woo! She's going to go be amazing. Woo! We're all going to go see her. Woo!
I just don't know. I don't know what I'm going to say yet. I'm supposed to write patter for in between my songs, and I haven't figured out what I'm saying yet.
Yeah.
So I gotta figure that out.
You
honestly.
should talk to someone who is an expert at coming up with conversation and patter.
Sondheim? Thornton Wilder? You?
It's me! You'd rather talk to an old dead guy than me?
I absolutely would if it's Sondheim or Thornton
if it's on time,
Wilder.
I also
I'm
would much
sorry.
rather talk to
I would
him
so
any given
much
day of the
rather
week.
talk to them. I get to talk to you every day anyway.
Yeah, you're not special.
You're not special.
Sometime? Nah. Can you imagine? Honestly, here's the thing. He would say like the nicest, kindest, most prolific thing.
I don't know. He would probably be pretty brutal.
Brutal, but like it's exactly what you would need though.
True.
You know?
True. Have you seen this is totally off topic. Have you seen that video of him coaching a group of people doing getting married today from Company?
No.
It's one of my favorite videos ever. Anyway, you need to watch it.
Have you seen the video of Stan Lee talking about how much he loves the use of the F word
No.
I've seen it a couple times now. Someone interviewed him. Anyways, they're also an animator, so they animated it. And so it's like this cute animated version of Stan Lee talking about. Anyways, it's really fun.
That's really
It's
funny.
really good. And then he ends with his catchphrase, Excelsior. Now let me do it again. Excelsior. Oh, F. And then just ends. Anyways, so good. I hope they're like high-fiving and fist bumping it up in heaven.
Stanley and Sondheim, you think they're friends?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stanny and Sandy.
What?
I don't know, man. I'm feeling rap today.
Okay.
Were we going to talk about something?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Our Town. We
yeah.
already talked about Our Town, but we're going to talk about it more.
Yeah.
You're so excited. So we're back. However, I'm making the assumption that our audience came from the first episode to listen to this episode, but just in case they haven't, Jared, I'm going to call on you.
Yeah.
If you could give us a brief, 1 to 3 minute overview about what we spoke about in our last episode.
Of course. That's
Cool.
so kind and considerate of you.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. You're so aware of our audience and their needs.
So we talked through the first act last week.
We did. Yeah. So we got introduced to our stage manager, the narrator for the show, the one who walks with us through the entirety of the show. We met our main families. It's the Gibbs family and the Webb family. Yep. Got it right. Plus like the paper boy, the milkman, the constable, all those people. We talked about the importance of pantomime in theater and how to do that realistically. We also talked about the simplicity of life, yet the innate complexity that lies within the simplicity. And we talked about a few other niche things. But yeah, we've established that it's a small town. Things are pretty simple. There's a little bit of love. There's a little bit of work. There's a little bit of life.
Very nice.
Thanks.
Can you remind us whose relationship started blooming in the last
I
act?
remember that his name is
names.
George. Don't remember her
I wrote them
name.
down for you right there, but...
Oh my gosh.
You know.
You did. Thank you so much. George and Emily.
George
right?
and Emily,
Yeah,
yes.
they teenagers, maybe young adults, are blossoming a new relationship, but that they're unsure of.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure that we said that because guess what our second act is called? Love and Marriage. So our first act is daily life. Our second act is love. Why do you look? You look so disappointed.
I thought it was going to be love and tacos. That's all.
Why would it be love and tacos?
Taco Tuesday. Dude, I love tacos. They go so well together.
Okay.
Love and tacos?
You're on one right now.
I am on one. I'm feeling wrapped.
Okay. Are you just going to repeat that every time I say that? You're going crazy. Okay, sounds good.
Cool.
Our second act, Love and Marriage. Jared, who do you think we might be talking about in this act? And have you figured out who our protagonists are yet?
I have George and Emily.
Oh my goodness,
because
so
yo
good.
soy a smarty.
So good.
Yeah.
The Gibbs and the Webb families were bound to come together.
I just want to say, I'm
right?
actually so here for this. I know I'm silly goofy. You actually have my 110% focus and attention, and I'm going to take this seriously because our town is a very serious matter. So
sure.
I'm actually gonna. Okay, I'm with you.
Thank you.
You have worked so hard and so diligently to create such righteous material.
Righteous material. Thank you.
So you have my full attention. Okay. Please take it away. Entertain our audience, if you will.
Act 2 starts very similarly to Act 1. The ladders have been cleared from the stage. They were there for the end of Act 1. And it looks just like it did at the beginning. Tables and chairs making up 2 kitchens. And guess who starts the act?
It's probably the stage manager.
The stage manager. He starts by giving us very important information. This is the information. 3 years have gone by. The sun's come up over 1,000 times. Are you feeling like a mathematician?
Of notes.
Of note.
I am, but of notes. You know how and it has some name and I can't remember, but you know the plays that are supposed to take place within a 24-hour period? Oh, that's like a Greek play, right? That's like one of the rules for a Greek play. It has to be within a 24-hour period. This is not that play.
Well, you could say that each act is a 24-hour period.
Oh, True.
But
Fair enough.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because it starts with the morning, ends with the day. Oh, cool. Okay. That works. I just, that's a very Grecian rule that a lot of plays will follow.
Yeah.
And we don't always realize because we're like, oh my gosh, like they fell in love. That dude died and he lost his company in 24 hours. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not necessarily the case.
Cool.
So we want to figure out how many days make up 3 years. So that'll be 365 times 3.
Oh, I am many things.
Go brain.
Good
go
at math
brain,
is
go
not
brain.
one of them. 3, 6, 9 plus a little bit more. So it's going to be like 1,024.
Ooh, pretty close. 1,095. Not too shabby.
Ha! Take that, Miss Sood. Thought I'd never amount to anything.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just kidding. She's actually a wonderful woman who always had full confidence in me.
Is this your
She's
math
like, this
teacher
just
in
isn't
high
a
school?
topic for you, but you're
Okay.
great at all your other subjects.
That's rough, baby. Our stage manager informs us about some things that have happened during those 1,095 days. Okay?
Yep.
Babies have been born.
Yep.
A number of young people have fallen in love and gotten married.
Yep.
And in his words, a number of people who thought they were right young and spry have noticed that they can't bound up a flight of stairs like they used to without their heart fluttering a little.
I remember hearing that line, and I thought it was genius.
It's very good. The day is July 7th, 1904, soon after high school commencement, and the time when most of the young people in town get married. It's early morning, and everything is almost as it was in Act 1, except that it has rained. There goes the 5:45 train for Boston. Mrs. Gibbs and Mrs. Webb come down to make breakfast. Howie Newsom comes to deliver the milk, and Cy Crowell, Joe Crowell Jr.'s brother, you remember Joe Crowell Jr.?
Yeah, I do.
He's grown up.
Has
so
he
now
really?
Cy is the new newspaper boy. He's delivering the newspapers now.
Is this played by the same actor?
They're typically played by the same actor. Not
Okay.
always, though.
Sure.
The morning work occurs, and Dr. Gibbs comes downstairs to talk with his wife. Due to the upcoming events of the day, they are reminiscing about their own wedding and the years that have gone by. George comes skipping down the stairs and slips across the lawn, leaping over puddles to visit his girl, and he startles Mrs. Webb, who reprimands him and reminds him that the groom can't see the bride on their wedding day until they see each other in church.
Why is that?
It's a superstition.
I was
you
so
see-
ready for like a big answer. You gave me like big eyes, and you're like, "You ready?" It's a superstition.
It's a superstition.
Why? Okay, that's it.
I don't know.
Okay,
You can
because it was
look it
formed
up.
like 3,000 years ago.
It's just been a rule
Okay.
forever. Come on.
All right.
Get with the times. Mr. Webb even got with the times, comes down the stairs and agrees with his wife that there's a lot of common sense and superstitions.
Oh shoot!
Yeah,
All right.
I know.
All right, you got it, Mr.
So listen
Webb.
to
My
Mr.
bad.
Webb.
My bad.
Mrs. Webb invites George to have some bacon and tells her husband to keep him busy because she needs to go see to Emily.
Mm.
Seems like everyone's feeling nostalgic this morning, and George is feeling nervous, so Mr. Webb shares some advice his father gave him when he was going to get married. This is one of my favorite bits. Jared, do you want to read it for me? This is what Editor Webb says.
George, I was thinking the other night of some advice my father gave to me when I got married. Charles, he said, Charles, start out early, showing who's boss, he said. Best thing to do is give an order, even if it don't make sense, just so she'll learn to obey. And he said if anything about your wife irritates you, her conversation or anything, just get up and leave the house. That'll make it clear to her, he said. So I took the opposite of my father's advice, and I've been happy ever since. And let that be the lesson to you, George. Never ask for advice on personal matters.
Anyway, I just like that line.
It's pretty good because you'll hear the audience member, the modern audience member, squirming behind you. They're like getting all ready to form their argument, and then they go, "Oh, it's okay, we're good."
Oh,
we're good.
he's saying
Okay.
that's not a good thing to do.
So, and that's the thing. Old humor is funny.
Yeah.
These shows are funny, and not in a laugh out loud type of way, but in a
chuckle
way
to
that
yourself
makes you
kinda way.
chuckle.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're funny.
Yeah, it's a good time. I like him.
I gotta know what happens
I
next.
like the humor. Okay. They go on to talk about George's plans, his plans for the farm, because
Who's inherited
just so you know,
from
he's
his
inherited
Uncle
that farm
Luke.
from his Uncle Luke. Good job,
Yes!
you remembered. Until Mrs. Webb comes back downstairs and shoos George out the door. The stage manager then interrupts this moment to show us another very important conversation.
Oh.
How it all began. We go back in time, it's a little flashback, to when Emily and George were still in high school. It's June. George has just been elected class president, and Emily was elected secretary and treasurer.
Good for her.
Yeah. So the scene changes up a little bit. 2 chairs are put together, and a board is balanced on them. 2 high stools appear, and Mr. Morgan's drugstore now appears on the stage. But we're not in there yet. Emily and George walk down Main Street. Separately, bidding their friends goodbye, George asks to carry Emily's books home, and she obliges, handing them to him. He congratulates her on her election, and she thanks him. After some awkward moments, George confronts her. Emily, why are you mad at me? I'm not mad at you, she replies. You've been treating me so funny lately, he says in return. And that's as long as it takes her to get her to say it right out. She explains that she's seen a change in George, that he only wants to spend his time at baseball and he never stops to speak to anyone anymore, and that he's conceited and stuck up. After her whole spiel, which is longer than that, by the way, she stops and apologizes and starts crying. And that sounds a lot like me. I can't have any confrontation without crying, so big mood on her part. Jared could testify about that.
True.
George asks her
does the most typical thing a guy could in that moment.
If she'd like an ice cream soda.
Boom.
Because that fixes everything.
Everything.
And they go to sit down in Mr. Morgan's drugstore, the stage manager becoming Mr. Morgan.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, he kind of leans in sometimes and just becomes characters that are unimportant.
They're all important.
Okay. No, I just mean that, like,
that we don't see very often. True.
Yeah.
I love, it's a very common trope, but I love when the narrator steps in and fills in for those roles. Mm-hmm. It's almost like the narrator has a hand in shaping the story.
What? That's
snap.
Crazy.
Insert Into the Woods.
Oh, yeah. So, anyway, they sit down.
Yeah, they do.
In this drugstore.
They do.
And George orders ice cream sodas for the both of them. Emily objects that they're so expensive, but George replies that he's celebrating their election and celebrating because, in his words, I've got a friend who tells me all the things that ought to be told me. George promises to change for her and asks if he goes away to State Agriculture College if she'll wait for him and write him letters. She agrees, but then, as a high schooler does, George changes his mind immediately. He's not going to school. In fact, he decides right then and there that he's going to take over his uncle's farm because he thinks that their relationship is just as important as going away to college. She agrees, and they finish their important talk, and he walks her home.
Yeah.
What cuties.
Cuties. Did you know that in the 1930s, an ice cream soda typically cost a nickel?
That's so expensive.
So expensive. Oh my gosh. Dude went broke on that thing.
To be fair, I think it goes into this in the first act. His allowance is 25 cents a week.
Either way, still.
Either way.
That's 1/5 of this man. Yeah, that's like 1/5 of this man's income.
Yeah, if he's buying them both ice cream sodas. Yeah.
Oh, true. If he bought
and if
like
he buys
two.
buys them both.
Yeah, that's 2/5 of man's income. Boom. Yeah. Gone. Digested.
Yeah.
Dude, that'd be crazy. Yeah.
Because he doesn't save his money. He just spends it all on strawberry phosphates, remember?
Strawberry phosphates and ice cream sodas. Oh, and baseball cards.
And baseball cards, of course.
There you go. The important things in life, folks.
The important things in life. So we finish that sweet conversation and we see how they interact together and we see the start of their blooming relationship.
Yeah.
And after that, we fast forward right back to where we were on the day of the wedding, July 7th. I think that was the day that they said it was. So that day, pews are arranged. A platform is set up.
I think pew is such a funny word. I'm like, who looked at a wooden bench was like,
that's a pew.
I'm going to call that a pew. Pew, pew, pew. And someone's like, hey, That's the sound of a Star Wars aircraft. Someone put that in, George Lucas. Anyways, I digress. I just think it's funny.
Anyway, the stage manager, guess what? Puts on a different hat again and becomes the minister.
Yes.
The next part of this play is made in a sort of tableau style.
That is a big word for Elmo.
Meaning the individuals are spotlighted and given the chance to tell their thoughts, and then it goes on the next person, the next person, the next person.
That's very artistic.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's very artistic. Mrs. Webb goes first. She's crying. Her daughter's leaving her. It's very sad.
Yep.
Next, a group of baseball players catcalled George a little, baseball players.
Yeah. Sure do. You know me.
Next, we zoom in on George, who nervously talks to his mother about how scared he is to grow old. And then, in the back of the room, where Emily is about to enter, she talks nervous with her father. The only thing that calms Emily down is Mr. Webb calling George over. George is still nervous, but he emphatically says that he loves her and needs her. And Emily says so sweetly that all she wants is someone to love her, and that he must love her forever and ever. They embrace, and the wedding march starts, so George is shooed to the altar, and Emily walks down the aisle. Mrs. Soames is our last tableau. "What a lovely wedding," she exclaims. She is so sure that the lovely couple will be so happy. Everyone celebrates. They are married. And that's it. That's the end of Act 2.
Boom.
Boom. Mic drop.
Weddings are always cute and adorable.
They are.
I especially love when it's performed by two sophomores in high school who are just so painfully awkward.
But I mean, George and Emily are pretty painfully awkward already, so it works
fair
out.
enough. Yeah,
it works out. Which is why, it's a good show for high schoolers to do.
Yeah, it's good.
So anyway, this play, I don't know about you, but it feels really different than a lot of plays that I've seen or studied. That there's just nothing super important happening. I mean, they got married, that's important, but people are just talking about whatever.
Sure.
There's a lot of small talk. People are just being people, and they're living their daily lives. They're sharing their internal thoughts, and it doesn't have a purely linear story. And the story isn't even told as we normally hear stories told. So I wanted to take a little pause before we get to the third act, which is very important. So stay around, okay? And go into some of the
the third act. That's funny.
Oh, that's very funny, actually. Go into some of the reviews that Our Town received.
Yeah. Because
it actually received very mixed reviews when it was originally produced. The negative reviews really focused on whether it was dramatic enough to be a play.
Sure.
John Gassner in One Act Play magazine said that the play was devoid of developed situations and not a major dramatic experience. People basically said that it was too basic. Basically said it was too basic. Michael Gold, an editor of New Masses, wrote, "It is an exasperating play, hideous in its basic idea, and beautiful in its writing, acting, and staging." So he liked it and disliked it at the same time, I guess.
The audience can't see, but I'm putting on my skeptical face at the moment and stroking my chin. I have thoughts.
I talked about this briefly at the end of our last episode.
Yeah.
That I kind of struggled writing the script. It literally took me 3 weeks, guys, because I couldn't figure out what was quote unquote important enough to put in. Because I could leave out several scenes because they don't seem to necessarily add to it, but I also wanted to tell the story, and I wanted to include that kind of small talkish, a small town feeling. And it's also hard telling the story interestingly when I'm not using Wilder's actual words, because what makes the show so special is the staging and the beautifully simple words that Thornton Wilder writes.
True.
So, Jared, I wanted to take some time to ask you what you think about this show so far. We haven't gotten to the all-important third act yet, which most people that's what they have thoughts on. But I wanted to ask if this is the kind of theater that you think you could enjoy.
I think I could. I have a thought, kind of unrelated, but I promise I'm going to tie it in. There is a movie that I saw a long, long time ago, and then I saw a highlight in a reel, and I was reminded of the film. It's the film adaptation where Nicolas Cage plays his character Charlie, right? He's at I think it's a 3-day conference for screenwriters who are making movies. Anyways, and there's this character, Robert McKee.
The character's name or the actor's name?
The character. Okay. Anyway, so he's hosting this 3-day screenwriting event, and there's a portion where people are allowed to ask questions that they have. And basically, Nicolas Cage's character asked the question, I'm writing a script for a movie where nothing really happens. What about that? There isn't really a protagonist. Nothing really happens. Robert McKee gives a really strong response to this question. He says, first, you write a screenplay without conflict or crisis, you'll bore your audience to tears. Secondly, nothing happens in the world. Are you out of your mind? People are murdered every day. There's genocide, war, corruption. Every single day, somewhere in the world, somebody sacrifices his life to save somebody else. Every day, someone takes a conscious decision to destroy someone else. People find love. People lose it. A child watches their mother beaten to death on the steps of a church. Someone goes hungry. Someone else betrays his best friend for a woman. If you can't find that stuff in life, then you, my friend, don't know crap about life. And it's a pretty strong message. And then he goes on to use many, many swear words to cuss out Nicolas Cage's character. But I think it's important to note. So, yes, I can understand where these people are coming from when they're writing their reviews, because they're it's not very dramatic and it's not very interesting. There's not a lot happening. I disagree. People are born. People have died. People have changed jobs. Girls have become mothers. Mothers now have their own daughters. Someone just became a husband and wife.
Yeah.
Someone's worst sin was just announced on the street corner. I think it's there, but it's presented in the way that life presents itself. It's very simple.
It's subtle.
It's not blown up to huge proportions like we get in Death of a Salesman or A Streetcar Named Desire,
Mm-hmm.
So it's there. But are you willing to pay attention? And are you willing? Because it's just told through conversation. Never are you going to see someone actively having an affair on stage, blown out in red lights with red velvet costume and dressings, but it's there.
Yeah.
It's there. It's happening. I also think this is a play about simpler times where your life and your death often hang in the balance of your own actions. People are, one season away from catching a deadly illness, or one month away from becoming a brand new parent. And so I think it can remind us how fragile life can be sometimes, and how intimate some of life's most precious moments really can be, even though they're just told through simple conversation.
I love those thoughts.
I disagree for the most part, but that's just me and my opinion.
You disagree with the negative reviews?
I do. I think it's very good. It's also been around for almost 100 years.
It's gotta be pretty good.
So,
well, no, it's been around for more than almost. You're right, because 1937.
You know how the longer something exists, the more amazing it becomes, just because it's old. Like the pyramids of Giza, they're just large stone triangles.
Well, the fact that it's lasted this long.
But the fact that it's lasted this long is we're like, oh my gosh, there's significance because it actually made it and wasn't destroyed. So. Right. I think there's also the historical aspect of the play itself. Anyways, I talked too much. Your turn.
Those were some really good thoughts. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
I personally love the simplicity. Again, this is my favorite play.
Yeah.
I don't really know why, but it's my favorite play. I've noticed about myself that as interesting as stories are that are out of this world, I personally tend to love the ones that echo the human experience.
Totally.
And I think that Our Town does that just splendidly. Before we get to the third act, I know I'm keeping you on edge. It's coming. I want to sidebar one more time about the why of Our Town and why Thornton Wilder himself wrote it. So there are several different things that I pulled from to do this. So definitely look at the references. I'll say where they're from, but
Link them in the show notes,
I
folks.
will. Soon before Wilder wrote Our Town, he studied archaeology in Rome in 1920. So that's random.
Good for him.
Anyway, while visiting a local dig, according to an article from the Pulitzer files, he was struck by the vivid juxtaposition of past and present. He wrote a letter to his parents describing it. This is what he said. While by candlelight we peered at famous paintings of a family called Aurelius, symbolic representations of their dear children and parents, the streetcars of today rushed by over us. We were clutching at the past to recover the loves and pieties and habits of the Aurelius family, while the same events were passing above us. In less poetic words, he noticed that modern day and ancient people perhaps weren't so different after all. Like I think you said that in the last episode.
That's what we said in the last episode.
To quote the article once more, that realization, his idea that human lives across centuries are universally conjoined by certain personal moments and milestone events, became a foundation of Our Town. So that's one experience he had. He
Poetry, folks.
It is very poetic. He also writes in the preface to his 3 plays that he had an experience when he was in his early 20s. Oh, the 3 plays being Our Town, The Skin of Our Teeth, and The Matchmaker. Those are his.
I knew a matchmaker
his 3 big plays. He quotes in this preface. Toward the end of my 20s, I began to lose pleasure in going to the theater. I ceased to believe the stories I saw presented there, yet at the same time, the conviction was growing in me that theater was the greatest of all the arts. He continues, I began to feel that the theater was not only inadequate, it was evasive. It did not wish to draw upon its deeper potentialities. I found the word for it. It aimed to be soothing. The tragic had no heat, the comic had no bite, the social criticism failed to indict us with responsibility. I began to search for the point where the theater had run off the track, where it had chosen and been permitted to become a minor art and an inconsequential diversion. The trouble began in the 19th century and was connected with the rise of the middle classes. They wanted their theater soothing. What do you think about this, Jared? Theater is a means of soothing. I don't think theater was ever meant to be soothing personally. Can you give me a couple of examples in theater history where theater has been the opposite of soothing? Where it wasn't? because I remember just time and time again being taught in theater history that theater was never really meant to be soothing.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Can you give us some examples of that?
Yeah. A Doll's House. There we go. I was trying to remember what it was called.
Ibsen's A Doll's
Ibsen's
House.
Doll's House. I mean, that one caused a ton of controversy and uproar just because of its theme of submission and the typical ideas of women at the time, and it challenged that. And so it caused quite an uproar with people. And I know that you've talked about Mrs. Warren's Profession at time as well, like it being censored in Britain, right?
Yeah. I think it was.
Yeah.
It was like I don't think it was allowed to be performed for a
Canceled.
while. Canceled.
Of course
Yeah,
they
it
did.
was just.
Totally. I also know that there have been several phases throughout theater, throughout the ages. Like I'm thinking experimental theater, right, where its goal was to push boundaries and challenge different conventions. Dark comedy also existed for a time and kind of still does today. It's something that we still carry on with, where it engages in very serious matters or maybe even issues that are taboo, right? I can also think of like surrealism. Influenced the theater of cruelty. Which still exists today. This often has a very dreamlike or illogical scenes that don't make a lot of sense. Heck, I mean, even Dadaism, pushing ideas to its extreme and almost to an abstract, right? Just to break people out of their conventional ways of thinking and to get them thinking about things in different ways, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Like I remember hearing a story where there was a theater director years ago. This is during World War II, right? And he wanted to make his audience uncomfortable. He would sprinkle like red pepper flakes into the seats just to do anything and everything that he could just to get people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, and this probably has to do a lot dating back to like Greek theater, going back to it again, and this idea of catharsis, right?
Yeah.
It's so much easier to experience hardship and tragedy as a witness, as a bystander in a third person view and feel it that way as opposed to having to live through it firsthand. I can see why why they would want it to be soothing, because that's easy, right? It's easy to watch an episode of Bluey. Everything's better. But we learn and we grow when we witness conflict, when we see death and despair. There is conversation to be had from argument.
Yeah.
So I think it all depends. I think everything in its time and place, but...
And I think everything has its place, right? Maybe there are bits of theater that are supposed to be soothing, that it's important to have that soothing.
Oh, sure.
Right, but...
Yeah, I take your modern musicals, Hamilton, Dear Evan Hansen, even something like Parade. This is not something where you walk away feeling happy-go-lucky.
Yeah,
there are
true.
real social issues at play that are still actively afoot in our own daily lives.
You know, the interesting thing, too, about
Go for it.
Theater history is that you can notice if you link just regular old history up with theater history that often during the times of turmoil, people make art that is more disturbing and uncomfortable than ever. Yeah. You would think that people would want art that was soothing when times are hard. You would think that you would want to watch something soothing. Yeah. But there really is something to that catharsis, and there's really something to that writing, like creating art just to feel something, right? And I think that's a big deal. Yeah. So I think we answered that. I had a question about that, but I think we just answered that.
Put it there, partner.
Good job.
Boom.
On a similar vein, how do we think that Our Town was different from other shows of its time? Ooh. I was noticing, I don't know very many shows of that time, but I was looking up. This was when the start of kind of the rise of the musical, but not quite. The musical really got like Oklahoma came out in the 40s, but we're talking about in this was on Broadway in 1937. Yeah. But before then, like Anything Goes and Porgy and Bess had come out.
Yeah. Again, those are very big, very dramatic, larger than life, blown out of proportion shows. Opera is always big and fancy. Musical theater is known for its spectacle. So again, having a show where the emphasis is in its simplicity, in its normalcy, that's different.
I was realizing that Arthur Miller wrote his plays in the 1940s, and I was wondering.
Oh, did he?
I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I was wondering how influenced he was by Wilder.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, that dude writes dramatic stuff.
He does write dramatic. He also writes stuff that is more lifelike. Like he's not inventing a brand new place and time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Thornton Wilder is technically inventing a new place and time, but you know what I mean? It's
based in reality, not
basic
fantasy.
Reality, right. Anyway, thanks for going on that journey with me.
That's part of my day.
That was a huge tangent. So thank you, audience, for listening to that. To end this discussion, Wilder further said in this preface that I previously mentioned, "Our Town is not offered as a picture of life in a New Hampshire village, or as a speculation about the conditions of life after death. That element I merely took from Dante's Purgatory. It is an attempt to find a value above all price for the smallest events in our daily life. I have made the claim as preposterous as possible, for I've set the village against the largest dimensions of time and place." So we've explored those dimensions of time and place, but we haven't even talked about this life and death stuff. We've gone through lots of small and big events in a daily life, but let's see about that third act. We're finally getting to it, ladies and gentlemen. Death and eternity.
Have we ever talked about why our podcast is named The Third Act?
I don't think so. Do you want to go into that?
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you. Yeah, when we were coming up with ideas for a podcast name, we settled on the idea of the third act. Usually in traditional theater, the third act is when everything is revealed and everything comes to light. Which, if the point of our podcast is to educate and entertain, that's a pretty good name. Fun story, we didn't realize the third act is also a term used to reference individuals who are in the last section of their life. So
there are actually several podcasts.
There are a couple podcasts talking about retirement plans that are available to you. Didn't realize that. Oops. But it's okay. We like it. We're sticking with it. So yeah. Anyways. But please. Take it away. You've done such a wonderful job so far.
Leading up to this moment.
We've all been thoroughly educated and entertained, and we desire closure to this story that we've been unwrapping.
All right. The third act is titled Death and Eternity. This is what the stage looks like. Yeah. The kitchens are gone, and they've been replaced by 3 rows of chairs. In the front row, there will be, and there might be more chairs in there, but they will include an empty chair, Mrs. Gibbs, then Simon Stimson. In the second row, Mrs. Soames and others. In the third row, Wally Webb and others. These are graves in the cemetery, and those sitting in the chairs are the dead. This is the written stage direction. The dead do not turn their heads or their eyes to right or left, but they sit in a quiet without stiffness. When they speak, their tone is matter of fact, without sentimentality, and above all, without lugubriousness. This part is not supposed to be funny, but I have no idea what that word means, and I doubt anyone else knows. That's a big word for Elmo. Jared, could you possibly give us the definition for this one?
Yes. Lugubriousness. First time I heard this word was in Disney's animated Hercules, refers to the quality of being excessively mouthful. Mournful. I cannot read. Mournful or doleful, often in an exaggerated or affected way.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So they're not sentimental. They're not mournful. They're just matter exist. Of fact. The stage manager tells us that 9 years have now gone by. It is the summer of 1913. Gradual changes have happened in the town yet again. But here, up on the hill in the cemetery, it's beautiful. It's peaceful. This part of the cemetery that we are now in is the new part of the cemetery. And a few of our friends who we have met during this play are here now. Jared, can you read this bit? This is the stage manager speaking, giving one of his speeches again.
It would be my pleasure. People just wild with grief have brought their relatives up to this hill. We all know how it is. And then time. And sunny days, and rainy days, and snow. We're all glad they're in a beautiful place, and we're coming up here ourselves when our life's over. Now, there are some things we all know, but we don't take them out and look at them very often. We all know that something is eternal, and ain't houses, and it ain't names, and it ain't earth, and it ain't even the stars. Everybody knows in their bones that something is eternal, and that something has to do with human beings. All the greatest people ever lived have been telling us that for 5,000 years. And yet, you'd be surprised how people are always losing hold of it. There's something way down deep that's eternal about There's something way down deep that's eternal about every human being.
And that's Thornton Wilder on eternity. We could end there, but there's more.
There's always more.
2 new characters appear. We haven't seen them yet. Joe Stoddard, who is the undertaker at the cemetery, and Sam Craig, who is described as a Grover's Corners boy that left town to go out west. Sam Craig is back for a funeral. He's there early, but he notices his Aunt Julia, Mrs. Gibbs. and he visits his own parents in a different area.
Hmm.
The two speak of the dead who are lying there. Dr. Gibbs mourns his wife. Simon Stimson, you remember the organist at the church who drank a lot?
Sure do.
He took his own life.
Oh.
But now he sits there, just like everyone else. Wally Webb, Emily's little brother, passed away as a young boy. And now they speak of someone who just died. Sam Craig's cousin. He is informed that she died in childbirth, her second child. She has a 4-year-old son. The grave is going to be in the Gibbs section.
That's sad.
Now, 4 men carry a casket in, and everyone else is under umbrellas. Mrs. Soames, sitting there as one of the dead, asks Mrs. Gibbs, one of the dead, who it is. She responds, "My daughter-in-law, Emily." Yeah. During this bit, the dead make comments on what's going on. They reminisce about life, and they remember who Emily was. One of them loves the hymn that the living are singing. And after that hymn, Emily appears, wearing a white dress, and sits in the empty chair in the front row next to Mrs. Gibbs. They all say hello to each other, pretty emotionless, matter of fact, still facing forward. Emily starts to talk to Mrs. Gibbs about how the farm is, that they bought a new barn and a cement drinking fountain with the money she left them. $350. Remember the money Mrs. Gibbs was going to use to go to Paris. She gave it to her daughter-in-law and son. Emily looks at the group at the funeral and then looks directly at Mrs. Gibbs for the first time. Live people don't understand, do they? Mrs. Gibbs responds, "No, dear, not very much." The funeral ends. Everyone walks away except for Dr. Gibbs, who leaves a flower at his wife's grave, and then leaves. It is calm, and the rain stops. And it is then that Emily has an idea. "But Mother Gibbs, one can go back. One can go back there again into living. I feel it. I know it."
Oh. Are they allowed to do that?
She addresses the stage manager and asks to go back. The dead discourage her from it. "You not only live it, but you watch yourself living it." You can, but that's the catch. But she's determined. At Mrs. Gibbs's urging, she chooses an unimportant day. So Emily chooses her 12th birthday. Wanting the whole day, they begin at dawn.
Okay.
Emily stands, and we see Main Street appear again. It doesn't actually, but we have to envision it.
I was about to say, I was like, wait.
It was indicated by lights. By the lighting designer at the Broadway production that I saw. As she's walking down Main Street, Emily notices everything in its little detail. The white fence that used to be around their house. She sees Howie Newsome, the constable, sees them and remembers that the constable is dead. He died. Howie Newsome with the milk, Constable Warren, and Joe Crowell with the newspapers meet in front and converse, just as they have every day. Inside of the Webb house, Mrs. Webb calls her children down to breakfast. Emily marvels at how young she looks. Her father comes home. He was away on a business trip. And Emily comes down the stairs at his urging. This just means, this is how it looks, that Emily speaks as her 12-year-old self and acts as her 12-year-old self, but she'll come in and out of it. We'll hear her commentary and thoughts on everything as she's going through this experience. Once she steps into the house, she becomes overcome with grief. Her mother won't look at her long enough. She knows that Wally is dead and that she is dead, and for this moment, they're happy. And she urges her mother, "Let's look at one another." She eventually, after this whole experience, and her father gives her a present, and she's so excited, and her mother's making bacon, and she can smell it, and she eventually breaks down crying, saying, "It goes so fast. We don't have time to look at one another." The lights dim, everything disappears, and everyone besides Emily and the stage manager disappear. And it is now that Emily gives one of the most beautiful monologues I think has ever been written. And I'll let you look it up and read it yourself. I won't do it for you. after these realizations that life is so beautiful and so each moment is so precious.
Oh, is ephemeral the word?
Ephemeral?
Is that even a word?
I think it is. Perhaps. Shall we look it up?
Ephemeral. Denotes to the fleeting aspect of human life.
Yeah. Just like that.
That's right. I took English.
After that realization, she returns to her grave and speaks with the dead. And lastly, the last action to happen, George enters and sinks to his knees at Emily's feet. Emily once again whispers to Mrs. Gibbs, "They don't understand, do they?" Mrs. Gibbs responds, "No, dear, they don't understand." The clock strikes 11, and the stage manager finishes with,
11 o'clock in Grover's Corners. You get a good rest, too. Good night.
And that's that. There's more I could say on the matter, but that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to let the rest of it speak for itself.
Would you invite them to go watch a production of Our Town?
I would. There are several on YouTube.
Several.
So,
and it's being performed around the world.
It is. I actually, I found a statistic that I don't know if it's true, that it's performed at least every day at some point in the world. Crazy.
If you enjoy what we're making, give us a follow.
If you think what we have to say could be enjoyable for someone else, give us a share. A little goes a long way.
If you have something to share or say, please send us an email at thethirdAct64@gmail.com.
We hope you'll join us next week. In the meantime, we know some of you have auditions, rehearsals, or performances, so go do something to fuel yourself and
break
a leg.
See you guys. Love you lots.